Yemen-based Houthi rebels launch 89 suicide drones at a U.S. Navy task force. 6 Aegis destroyers faced the largest drone swarm attack in naval history. In 23 minutes, they shoot down 84 drones. 5 penetrate the defenses, damaging 2 ships and killing 12 sailors. October 3, 2025. Red Sea, 85 nautical miles west of Hodeidah, Yemen. At 5:47 a.m., radar operators aboard USS Carney detected unusual activity over the Yemeni coast. Multiple small contacts, dozens of them, were lifting off from various locations and forming into a coordinated formation heading west over the Red Sea. Within 90 seconds, the assessment was clear. Massive drone swarm inbound, estimated count between 80 and 100 drones. Target: U.S. Navy task force operating in international waters. The task force, designated Surface Action Group Delta, consisted of 6 Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers: USS Carney, USS Laboon, USS Mason, USS Gravely, USS Porter, and USS Ross. The ships were conducting counter-piracy and freedom of navigation operations in the Red Sea, a mission that had become routine until regional tensions escalated following U.S. airstrikes on Houthi weapons facilities 3 days earlier. The Houthis, an Iranian-backed militant group controlling northern Yemen, had promised retaliation. Now it was arriving in the form of the largest drone attack ever attempted against naval vessels. The drones, identified as Shahed 136 Iranian-made suicide UAVs and locally produced variants, were designed for exactly this mission. Each drone, measuring 3.5 meters long with a 2.5-meter wingspan, carried a 40-kilogram warhead and could fly 2,000 kilometers at speeds up to 185 kilometers per hour. They were cheap, costing approximately $20,000 each, expendable, and when employed in large numbers, potentially overwhelming for even the most advanced defenses. 89 drones represented less than $2 million in hardware, attempting to destroy warships worth over $12 billion. At 5:49 a.m., the 6 destroyers went to general quarters, all hands manning battle stations. The ship's Aegis combat systems, designed to track and engage multiple threats simultaneously, began processing the incoming swarm. Radar operators counted 89 distinct contacts at 65 nautical miles, flying in a loose formation at altitudes between 200 and 1,000 feet. The drones were heading directly toward the task force at 100 knots. Estimated time to weapons range, 38 minutes, but the destroyer's SM-2 surface-to-air missiles had effective ranges exceeding 90 nautical miles. The battle would begin long before the drones reached their targets. At 5:52 a.m., the task force commander, Captain Jennifer Moore, aboard USS Carney, coordinated the defense plan across all 6 ships. The Aegis systems would link together, sharing radar data and coordinating missile launches to avoid wasting interceptors on drones already engaged by other ships. Each destroyer carried between 90 and 96 vertical launch cells, loaded with SM-2, SM-6, and evolved Sea Sparrow missiles. Total defensive missile inventory, approximately 550 interceptors. Against 89 targets, the mathematics suggested overwhelming defensive capability, but doctrine required multiple interceptors per target to ensure kills, and the sheer number of simultaneous threats would test the system's coordination. At 5:54 a.m., Captain Moore transmitted the engagement order. All ships authorized to engage. Prioritize outer zone intercepts with SM-2. Reserve SM-6 for leakers. ESSM for close-range threats. Phalanx CIWS as weapons-free for terminal defense. At 5:56 a.m., USS Laboon fired the first salvo. 8 SM-2 Block 3B missiles launched toward the leading edge of the drone swarm at 58 nautical miles. The missiles, traveling at Mach 3.5, would reach their targets in under 90 seconds. Should destroyers fire multiple missiles per drone or conserve ammunition by single-shot engagements? Type A for saturation fire, ensuring kills. Type B for ammunition conservation. Comment your tactical reasoning. At 5:57 and 30 seconds, the first SM-2s intercepted drones at 55 nautical miles. 7 drones were destroyed in spectacular explosions as the missiles' proximity-fused warheads detonated near the targets. 1 drone, damaged but still flying, continued toward the task force trailing smoke. At 5:58 a.m., all 6 destroyers began coordinated firing. 36 SM-2 missiles launched in rapid sequence, targeting the densest concentrations of drones. The Aegis system's computer coordination ensured each drone was assigned to specific missiles without redundancy. Between 5:58 and 6:04 a.m., the outer defensive zone became a killing field. 62 SM-2 missiles engaged the drone swarm at ranges between 50 and 35 nautical miles. 51 drones were destroyed outright. 8 were damaged but continued flying. The remaining 30 drones, apparently equipped with better electronic countermeasures or benefiting from lucky timing, evaded the first defensive layer. At 6:05 a.m., the middle defensive zone engaged. 24 SM-6 advanced missiles, capable of engaging both aircraft and missiles at extreme ranges, fired toward the surviving drones. The SM-6, the Navy's most advanced interceptor with active radar guidance and speeds exceeding Mach 3.5, was devastatingly effective. Between 6:06 and 6:08 a.m., 18 more drones were destroyed at ranges between 30 and 20 nautical miles, but 12 drones continued inbound, now only 18 nautical miles from the destroyers and closing at 100 knots. At 6:09 a.m., the evolved Sea Sparrow missile systems activated. 16 ESSMs, shorter range but highly maneuverable missiles, designed for terminal defense, launched from multiple destroyers. At 6:10 a.m., the ESSMs engaged the final drone wave at ranges between 15 and 8 nautical miles. 7 drones were destroyed, but 5 drones exhibiting evasive maneuvers programmed to complicate interception survived and continued toward the task force. These 5 drones were now only 4 nautical miles away, approximately 2 minutes from impact. At 6:11 a.m., the Phalanx close-in weapon systems activated across all 6 destroyers. The distinctive sound of 20mm Gatling guns firing at 4,500 rounds per minute filled the air. Subscribe to Navy Mission now for the most detailed naval defense system analysis available. This is coverage that reveals modern ship protection. At 6:12 a.m., USS Mason's Phalanx engaged 2 drones at 1,800 meters. The first drone was shredded by a stream of tungsten rounds and exploded 600 meters from the ship. The second drone, hit by multiple rounds but not destroyed completely, continued on momentum and struck the ocean 50 meters from Mason's port side. Its warhead detonated underwater, creating a geyser but causing no damage. USS Porter's Phalanx destroyed a third drone at 1,200 meters, the exploding UAV raining debris into the water. But 2 drones evaded the final defensive layer. At 6:12 and 30 seconds, the first drone struck USS Gravely's forward superstructure. The 40-kilogram warhead detonated on impact, blasting a 2-meter hole in the ship's structure above the waterline and starting a fire in a berthing compartment. 7 sailors sleeping in the compartment were killed instantly. 12 more were wounded by shrapnel and fire. Damage control teams immediately began fighting the blaze and sealing compartments to prevent flooding. At 6:12 and 45 seconds, the final drone struck USS Ross amidships. The warhead penetrated the ship's side and detonated in a passageway, killing 5 sailors and wounding 14. The explosion damaged ventilation systems and started fires in 2 compartments. But Ross's damage control teams, trained for exactly this scenario, contained the fires within minutes and prevented catastrophic damage. By 6:15 a.m., both damaged destroyers reported they were combat effective despite casualties and damage. At 6:17 a.m., the battle was over. 89 drones had attacked the task force, 84 had been destroyed by the layered defense, 51 by SM-2 missiles, 18 by SM-6s, 7 by ESSMs, 5 by Phalanx guns, and 3 by near misses or malfunctions. 5 drones had penetrated all defenses. 2 struck their targets. 12 American sailors were dead, 26 were wounded, 2 destroyers were damaged but operational. The Houthi attack, the most ambitious drone swarm operation ever attempted against naval vessels, had been defeated. But the cost demonstrated that even advanced defenses couldn't guarantee perfect protection. The immediate aftermath aboard USS Gravely and USS Ross was organized chaos. Medical teams treated wounded sailors while damage control parties fought fires and sealed compartments. Both ships, despite damage, maintained propulsion and defensive capabilities. The task force commander assessed the tactical situation. 2 ships damaged but functional. Defensive missile inventory depleted by approximately 150 weapons. Probability of follow-up attacks, high. At 6:25 a.m., Captain Moore transmitted to U.S. Central Command. Task force engaged and defeated 89 drone swarm. 2 ships damaged, 12 KIA, 26 WIA. Request immediate ammunition resupply and relief destroyers. Do you think a 94% intercept rate represents success or failure for naval air defense? Share your assessment in the comments. For the Houthi militants who had launched the attack, October 3rd represented both achievement and failure. They had executed the largest coordinated drone attack in history. 2 American warships were damaged, 12 sailors were killed. The psychological impact of demonstrating that U.S. Navy ships were vulnerable to relatively cheap weapons was significant. But 84 of 89 drones were destroyed before reaching targets. The vast majority of invested resources achieved nothing, and American retaliation would certainly follow. At 8:00 a.m., less than 2 hours after the attack, American Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from destroyers and submarines struck Houthi drone storage facilities, launch sites, and command centers across Yemen. 23 targets were destroyed in coordinated strikes that eliminated much of the Houthis' remaining drone inventory and degraded their ability to conduct follow-up attacks. The message was clear. Attacking American ships carried consequences that exceeded any tactical gains. For the families of the 12 sailors killed aboard USS Gravely and USS Ross, October 3rd became a day of tragedy. The sailors, ranging in age from 19 to 34, had been killed not in a major war but in a regional conflict by an enemy employing improvised weapons. Their deaths, while mourned and honored, lacked the context of grand strategic battles. They had died defending their ships from drones costing less than used cars, but their sacrifice was no less meaningful. Every sailor who serves understands that death can come from any threat, regardless of its sophistication. USS Gravely, with 7 dead and fires extinguished, was able to maintain station but required repairs that couldn't be conducted at sea. The destroyer departed for a port in Djibouti on October 4th, where emergency repairs were conducted over 2 weeks. USS Ross, having lost 5 sailors and suffering similar damage, followed the same path. Both ships eventually returned to the United States for complete repairs, requiring 3 months of shipyard work. The holes in their hulls, patched in Djibouti, remained as reminders of the vulnerability even advanced warships face. Strategically, the engagement reshaped understanding of drone threats to naval vessels. Swarm attacks using cheap, expendable drones could overwhelm defenses through sheer numbers even when most drones were destroyed. The economic calculation was sobering. The Houthis had invested less than $2 million in drones and achieved 2 hits that caused over $40 million in damage and killed 12 Americans. Even with a 94% intercept rate, the cost-exchange ratio favored the attackers. The U.S. Navy, analyzing the engagement, accelerated development of directed energy weapons and enhanced gun systems better suited for drone defense. Lasers, capable of engaging multiple targets at minimal cost per shot, offered potential solutions to the economic imbalance. And improved artificial intelligence for coordinating defensive fires could increase intercept rates above 95%, the threshold where swarm attacks became prohibitively expensive, even for state actors backing groups like the Houthis. For the 6 destroyers that had defended against the swarm, October 3rd became a validation of Aegis capabilities and a warning about future threats. The system had worked as designed, destroying 84 of 89 targets in a 23-minute engagement. But the 5 that penetrated had killed 12 sailors and damaged 2 ships. Future defenses would need to be even better, because future attacks would certainly be larger. As the sun rose fully on October 3rd, debris from 84 destroyed drones floated across the Red Sea. The wreckage, scattered over 50 square miles of ocean, marked where the largest drone swarm attack in history had been defeated. But aboard USS Gravely and USS Ross, the cost was measured not in statistics but in the 12 flag-draped bodies being prepared for transport home. The battle had been won, but victory, as always, came at a price paid by those who serve. Now I want 3 perspectives from you. First, does a 94% intercept rate against drone swarms represent adequate defense, or should standards be higher? Second, what does this engagement reveal about the economic asymmetry of drone warfare? Third, should navies prioritize directed energy weapons or additional interceptor missiles for drone defense? Comment your detailed analysis below. Your insights drive the conversations we have on Navy mission. And if this breakdown of the largest drone swarm engagement gave you new understanding of modern naval threats, prove it by hitting that like button, subscribing to Navy Mission, and turning on notifications. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay informed, and remember that the most dangerous threats are often the cheapest and most numerous.